Hi, and a great big warm welcome to the Ask Zofie podcast. This is season 2, episode 29, and this is take 2 because I just started recording a moment ago and totally forgot to do my normal intro because it's been a couple of weeks. And as I was saying in the other outtake now, I am so excited to share on what I'm going to share today. I was actually saying that I've got no notes because I'm so eager, partly because I haven't recorded for a couple of weeks, and partly because I just know how helpful what I'm going to speak to today will be for so many. And partly that's because it has been life-changing for me. Particularly, this episode is for you. There'll be bits that will help anyone, but this is particularly for you if you're someone who feels things deeply, who can I want to say, I'm not sure I want to say struggle with emotions, but can get overwhelmed, that is really sensitive, full stop, and sensitive to the emotions of others. So I've titled this Boss Your Emotions. Apparently, I'm just reading. That's the only thing I've got written down. Like I say, I've got no notes. And I'm just going to go into the topic in a minute. Before I do, I am going to share a pic from Love Notes. And also, I want to say that I've been talking about what I'm going to talk about today a fair bit recently. Well, in other words, loads actually. But the most recent meditation in the members area, I shared this yesterday on Instagram. I can't even remember the exact name of it. It's in the healing section. It's called something like Take Space, Step Back. Something that you're probably like, if you've listened to it, you're probably shouting at your phone or whatever. It's this, Zofie. But I wrote this meditation and I wrote a blog post in the member area all on this topic. If this resonates with you and you're in the member area, go listen, stat. If it resonates and you're not in the member area, join, then go listen, stat, because this conversation, this topic, this information is gold. And if you're someone who it's meant to land with, it will land, and you'll just know. Okay, but and I'll leave the link for the member area in the show notes, but also you can grab it on my website, or if you just go to Instagram from my bio. But let's see what Love Notes comes up with. It's probably going to be one of those episodes today where it sounds like I've had 100 coffees because of my enthusiasm. Let's see what Love Notes say. And I love it when I'm twinning with Love Notes as well. Navy is one of my favorite colors. Navy and pink and gray, I think. Anyway, that's an aside. I'm pretty boring. So just thinking that's the kind of thing you discuss when you're 8, isn't it? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Although I'm just thinking I probably haven't moved on from that because I still love knowing what people's favorite food is. Anyway, okay, let's see. Your heart will not drown in me, in my love. Only fear will fade, be washed away in an abyss of adoration. It's page 98. Your heart will not drown in me, in my love. Only fear will fade, be washed away in an abyss of adoration. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm just going to leave that one there. Okay, boss your emotions. Okay, let me just sort of lay the groundwork here. As you may or may not know, I've been really focused on manifesting abundance, wealth, an easier life materially for the last, I don't know, maybe let's say a year in earnest. It might not be that, I don't know, but just for argument's sake. And so you probably know that one of the things that's happened is that I manifested the apartment that I'm in now. Oh, by the way, the ceiling's been fixed. The hallway's not decorated yet, but we're making gains, we're making progress. And so I freed up some money by doing this. And one of the things I've been doing is investing big time in like coaching for myself, stuff to do with my business, all sorts of things. And as part of that, there is a woman, I will share her website or Instagram handle or both in the show notes, who I love, called Erin Claire Jones, who is a human design I don't know what she'd call herself, but I'm just going to call her a coach. And I've been following her on Instagram for a while. I don't look at much on social media. There's a few accounts, a few like meme accounts and things like that that I look at. And I look at Erin Claire Jones's content and absolutely love it. And I've loved her for some time. And so on my wish list was to do a one-to-one session with Erin Claire Jones, which I was really lucky to enjoy 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. And she, sorry, you can see as I'm moving, if you're watching on YouTube, some of the stuff that's in the hallway that is out of my son's bedroom at the moment, because that's currently being decorated. That's my making gains, but a bit messy still at the moment. Anyway, I did this one-to-one session with Erin and absolutely loved it. Not only because of the fact that I got to learn from her expertise and so on and so forth, but also it was symbolic. And I think this happens a lot when you invest in it could be something material like a watch that you've wanted that is relatively expensive, or a spa day, or some training. It's not just the fact that you've got this thing, it's also, for me, these things can be symbolic. And I think when people sign up for certain, you know, again, what we'd think of as relatively expensive courses and stuff and training, part of the reason that they succeed is because they're sending this message to themselves and to the universe: I value myself to the extent that I will spend this money on this thing. Anyway, I had my session with Erin Claire Jones and loved it. She sent me a recording and I started to listen to the recording. And I'll be honest, the thing that she shared that has changed my life and has a potential to change your life and be of support to loved ones in your life, I don't think it really landed during the session. I think it really landed as I listened to the recording. And actually, I haven't listened to all of the recording back. I got to this bit, and so I don't know what else will be in there, but this one thing was worth the entire amount of money that I paid for that one-to-one session, because it has helped me so much. And I've been waxing lyrical about it because of the fact that it's helped me so much. And obviously it has the potential to help so many others in the same kind of vein. So Erin Claire Jones is a human design coach. If you don't know anything about it and you're interested, go Google. I haven't got it with me actually, but my friend Siobhan, shout out to Siobhan, by the way, bought me a book for my last birthday. I will see if I can share a link to that in the show notes too. I would say if you're interested, start by go to Erin Claire Jones's website and you can work out your human design chart for free. It looks really weird. It is weird, but it's uber helpful. I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs. Follow her. And I got a blueprint from her, which I think is about $100-200, which is also a really useful starting point. The book I'll share. And you can go through, there's loads of content on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is, so on and so forth. You can start there. But what she told me is, according to my human design chart, I have what's called, and the wording here isn't important, I have what's called an undefined solar plexus. And she said, I also have, mine is completely open. And again, don't worry about all this lingo, that's not the point. Mine is completely open, which makes me extremely sensitive to the emotions of others. Now, I think about half of us have this undefined solar plexus. About half of us have a defined solar plexus. And whether you're defined or undefined makes a big difference to how you kind of feel and deal with and contend with emotions. Now, what happens for me a lot in my life is that there are these extremes, which has been, once I've learned about human design, it's like, yeah, no wonder I've always felt this, and it's kind of shown me the things that I've intuitively felt are right. And I think that's probably one of my skills, is because I'm so sensitive, I feel things really powerfully. I then get this clarity that I can share with others. So I have this undefined solar plexus, and mine is entirely open, which she said is really rare. And so I'm experiencing what the undefined solar plexus is, people of us here. And that you can, if you know what time you were born, you can work it out. If you don't and you can't work it out, it doesn't matter, because you will be able to guess which one you are anyway. So what she told me was, if you have an undefined solar plexus, what this means is okay, let me start actually with people with a defined solar plexus. People with and I'm not an expert in human design in any way, shape or form. I'm just an avid student. So I'm sharing it from that vantage point. Okay. So if you have a defined solar plexus, you are designed to have these kind of waves of emotion that emanate from within. They're born from within. Oh, by the way, I've got a feeling I'm going to get a parcel delivered at some point and the buzzer's going to go, and it's really noisy and I'm just going to have to ignore it. And I can't yet edit it out. So if it happens, it happens. Anyway, if you have a defined solar plexus, you have these internal waves of emotion that come and go. And so apparently what they say in human design is something like there's no truth in the now, which means you are going to feel differently about things dependent on where you are in your wave of emotion. You know, something might happen and you feel this powerful emotional response, like anger or sadness, and you feel a certain way, and it skews your perspective in a certain way. But then you sleep on it and the next day you're like, oh, I'm not bothered by that thing anymore. And again, not being an expert, my understanding is if you have a defined solar plexus, like give yourself time to make decisions and things like that, because you don't want to make a decision in the heat of the moment feeling angry and then realize the next day, oh, I didn't need to do that. And maybe take a bit of space from people when you're like this, so that A, you don't impact them, and B, that it just doesn't spiral. So, and the other thing, for me, this is key, is give yourself grace. Know that you're not meant to be completely level all the time. It's natural to have these peaks and these troughs, these ups and these downs with your emotions. This is how you are designed. And so this isn't me. I'm an undefined open solar plexus. So if that resonates with you, if the defined solar plexus thing resonates, in other words, you have these ups and downs and emotions, and sometimes you feel like this about a thing, and then sometimes you feel like that, and maybe you just feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so up and down. Please, this is your permission slip to make peace with that, to be patient with your emotions, and to know that how you feel about a thing is going to be different. You can't just take some snapshot in time and go, well, I want to do this or I don't want to do that. Because give yourself kind of like the fullness of time, the fullness of riding that wave of emotion before you decide on things. Now, this podcast episode is more for those of us who have an undefined solar plexus, because what Erin explained to me is that if you have an undefined solar plexus, you don't have these inner waves of emotion. You are naturally more level, as I see it. And my understanding is, and I'm piecing this together based on what she's told me, on what I've learned, you know, found online, and my own kind of intuition, and I suppose educated guesses and common sense, is that we do have our own emotions, but we don't have these like waves in the same way as those with a defined solar plexus. And what happens if you're undefined like me is the emotions of others will impact you. What I've noticed, what I think happens is when an undefined like me is with a defined, it's like they are more powerful in some ways because they've got this inner wave of emotion. And it can take you over, because what happens is you feel their emotion as if it's yours. And here's the thing to really get: it is amplified for you. So let's say you have an undefined solar plexus person and a defined solar plexus person. Say the defined solar plexus person is the child of the undefined, right? And the defined solar plexus kids just had a really crappy day at school and they're really, I don't know, worried about something. And the defined person is feeling it major magnified because it's coming from a defined person, it's their undefined, and it's their child. And then it can be really overwhelming. And what I think happens to a lot of people There are two individuals I can think of in my life. One is my son, and one is a male in my life who's older, who I believe have undefined solar plexuses. And this older person, what I think has happened in his life is he has felt things deeply and powerfully because he's undefined. So he's been absorbing the emotions of others, and they felt like these waves are engulfing him because it's so big, and he's repressed to the extent that he cannot feel. And actually, there's another person in my life who's also an older guy who I would say has had similar thing where he's like just cut off because it was such a deluge of emotion. And so I'm teaching Vincent, okay, when you're around other people, you are going to experience their emotions as if they are your own. And they're going to be amplified. And here's what you do about that. One, of course, just know it, just start to see and ask the question, is this my emotion or is it theirs? And as you're probably older, I think what can happen is you've got this, like, you've stored all this stuff, which then you've kind of taken on as your own. So it can then be experienced as your emotions that you will need to work through. But start also asking, is this my stuff or their stuff? I've had this question for ages. How do I discern? And the reason I've been asking this is because I've obviously sensed this isn't my stuff. These aren't my feelings. And so it's firstly knowing there's a saying, it's a Polish saying, not my circus, not my monkey, not my monkeys. And this is so, I think it speaks to, really helpful for those of us with an undefined solar plexus. When someone is riding their wave of emotion, it's their stuff, it's not yours. You're not meant to take it on. You're not meant to try and fix them. It's not bad or wrong that they're riding this wave of emotion. They will come through it. Otherwise, what happens is, like me, I had a thing a while back, and this other person was tense about something. I took it on because I am undefined and open, like crazy sensitive. I felt like I'd been in a train wreck, and then they bounced back and they were fine. So it's the reason this has changed my life and will change my life and has the capacity to change your life if you're undefined. And like if you've got a kid who's like this, or a friend or a lover, whatever, is it's like I've been given this permission slip that says you don't need to carry other people's stuff, and you don't need to try and fix their stuff, and you don't need to feel guilty about them going through stuff. It's all in divine order. Like, they're meant to have these waves, and you're not meant to be riding those waves with them. You're meant to give guidance as and when they want it, and to come back to your place of peace and calm. And I think I was reading something and it said that, you know, how challenging it can be being a child with an undefined solar plexus. You can see this, right? If you're undefined and you don't understand and you feel things amplified, you're going to be like this rubbish bin taking in everyone else's emotions, and they're riding those waves, and they're in it and they're out of it, and you're just hanging on to it, and it's so big that you either repress it or it's just going to come out in some way, shape, or form. So if you're undefined, start seeing that's not your stuff. You don't need to fix that person. You can be compassionate, you can be loving, you can help them, but they'll come through it. So don't take it so seriously when they're in the midst of freaking out or being angry or whatever it is. You're not here to be that rubbish bin for other people's emotions, and don't try and fix them. Yeah, again, if they want guidance, they want support, they want help, great, but nothing is going wrong when they're riding the wave of an emotion. They're meant to have that full sort of spectrum of experience. And I don't know the ins and outs of this, but what I think happens is they have and I don't know the wording from human design, but they have the capacity to clear it, to deal with it in a way that an undefined person doesn't. And so, yeah, no, it's not your stuff, not your circus, not your monkeys, and you're not doing anything wrong, just coming back to your place of peace. And clear, like, imagine at the end of the day, you know, you've got these energetic cords with people, and you just cut them and you come back into your own energy. Time on your own is so helpful, because that's when you do come back into your own energy, and you can tell, okay, that tension wasn't mine. What I've noticed is there are some people who I can be around who are anxious, and it's almost like I wear their anxiety when I'm with them, and it sort of sticks to me. Other people I know who are anxious, it doesn't impact me. And I think it's the defined people that have more of an impact, whereas the undefined have less of an impact. And I also think what happens is if you're undefined and you're with someone else who's undefined and they're anxious, if you're not very connected, it's not going to impact you much. But as you connect more with them, like say you get into a relationship with someone, or you become friends with someone, or you work closely with them, then that connection is going to tap you in more to their stuff, even though they're not defined. So they start to act a bit more like a defined person would. In other words, have the potential to kind of railroad you a bit with their stuff, with their emotions. And as you can probably tell, I am extremely passionate about this. I'm going to do some sort of masterclass and some sort of paid offering on it 100%, because as soon as it really landed, I was aware of the potency of this stuff. And just like, my God, if I'd known this growing up, and then Daniel, my boyfriend, is also undefined, if he'd known this. And I'm sharing this big time with Vincent, because he has people in his life who I know are defined and have strong emotions, and it's going to entirely change the trajectory of his life to start now by not taking on all of that stuff. So if you've got kids, I would say have a think about this. Like I wrote this in the blog post. I think it's the most loving thing, or one of the most loving things you can do, is to treat them in a way, it's called the platinum rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you'd have done to you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would have done, as they desire. So learning about individuals, human design, personality, whatever, and treating them in the way that is most helpful for them is incredibly compassionate and kind and loving. And as someone who's grown up really sensitive and very damaged because of everything I took on, my goodness, if someone, although I wouldn't change my journey because I'm here now because of it, at the same time, I would have been saved so much pain had someone educated me, child me about this, like, Zofie, all those things you're feeling, they're not even your feelings, and you're feeling them amplified. And so you're feeling bad for these people, and it's small for them compared to how you're feeling. So key things, if you're undefined, and you can either check it out or just sense it, like, I think you will be able to tell particularly if you're undefined. Just start to ask, is this my stuff or their stuff? Take space away from people and get clear, so that you get that clarity and you're able to perceive whether it's your emotions or the emotions of other people. The other thing that I didn't say is be mindful of who you're spending your time with. I think for me, as soon as I know it's not my stuff and I'm not meant to fix it, it's like I can be with them, but I'm sat on a metaphorical cloud at the same time. So that really helps. But also, you don't want to be spending loads of your time around people who have a lot of stuff going on, because you are going to probably be picking it up to some degree, or it's just going to be more challenging for you to stay feeling good. And don't be trying to fix people. Know that it's okay when they've got these emotional waves. Take space away from them, space to yourself, and definitely don't feel bad about them going through their stuff, because that's their journey. They're meant to be, and it's up to them to figure out to not take themselves and things too seriously when they're kind of like really in the midst of a heightened emotion. And if you're someone who's defined, please be gentle with yourself. Make peace with the fact that you have these waves of emotion. You're not meant to be like joyful all the time or peaceful all the time. Of course, as you make peace, those ups and downs are going to soften, because that's just the nature of how things work. But at the same time, you don't want to try and completely be level. And I think that maybe to a defined person, an undefined person might seem kind of a bit detached and cool because they don't have these ups and downs. We're not, it's just different, and we're all perfect in our own way, just different. And once you understand how to treat yourself and of course others with compassion, everything just flows much better. Okay, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for a long while, and it's like one of those things, I've said this before about a couple of things that I just wish I could tell everyone. I think probably if you're defined, this isn't such a big deal. But the people who are undefined in their solar plexus, I just think this is freaking a game changer, transformative to the max, life changing. And for me, as I think I said earlier, I have found feeling guilty about feeling good when others don't, or feeling really bad when other people don't feel good, has been this lifelong challenge for me. And as soon as I really got it, that just went. It's like, no, I'm not supposed to. It's like God sort of came from behind the clouds and went, Zofie, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like, it just gave me this, like I say, permission slip really clearly, which I've known logically, um, of course, for a long time, but it just never really hit me. It never really landed and resonated in the same way. So, my prayer, my hope is that for someone or someone's listening or watching, this does the same thing. And if it's also your permission slip, if you're defined, to go easy on yourself with those emotions, and that we can all be more compassionate with ourselves and with our loved ones and just with one another in general. God, that sounded like a bit, a bit like I was going into a, I don't know, somebody that's on Miss World, that, you know, their speech where they sort of say, oh, what do you like? What do you want? I want world peace. Everyone just to get along, which genuinely, like, yeah, in my head, the ideal world is just people are kind and everyone's nice to each other. But we won't go into all the crazy stuff, rainbows and butterflies that goes on inside my head. It's not all that, by the way. But anyway, okay, I really, really hope that this helps. If you have any questions, DM me is probably the best way to get hold of me, and I'll do my best to come back to you. If you have any questions you want me to answer on this podcast, also let me know, and I'm really happy to talk all things mindset and manifestation. Thank you so much for listening or watching and bearing with me while I had a small break. I will be back next week, and in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your day.